Happy full moon. Officially, happy first full moon of this Lunar New Year. And this is our Nourished Restorative Yoga class, which had been rescheduled from Thursday to today, Sunday, Feb 5. So we're actually going to start standing. We'll do a tiny bit of movement, like my children, we would say, get the wiggles out. We'll move a little bit. Just gentle to kind of start focusing our attention, get unwinding a little bit more actively, but gently. And then, yes, I see your message, Mary. Thank you. And then we'll head to the floor for our restoratives. Okay. So come on up. If I can't see all of you, that's fine. And I'm going to light a candle. If you feel the need to do so as well, go ahead. It's not required. So as you stand up, take a moment to simply arrive on your feet and start to notice or observe, okay, how am I on this Sunday afternoon? Noticing your posture, your sensations, where your mind, your attention is drawn to. Not looking to change or fix or judge anything, just simply noticing, doing your best to have that open or non-judgmental awareness. What kind of awareness do I have in my own body right now? Good. And whatever you're noticing, what's most prominent or the best information or most intense information, track that as we practice and just see at the end if it feels different, if it has changed, especially if it has improved. We want to draw our attention there to what we feel that's tangible and pleasant. Okay, so since we had a neck shoulder request, let's go there first. You can bring your hands up, give them a little warmth if you would like. And we're going to find the place behind our ears. It's a bump called the mastoid process. It's part of our skull, right behind your earlobe. And give it a little circular, gentle pressure, circular massage. You're welcome to let your mouth open and close or stick your tongue out, or you might feel your head starting to nod. Yes, a tiny bit while you massage there. I'm actually noticing a lot of saliva, which is a good sign. That's our parasympathetic, our relaxation response. So apparently I need this just like all of you showed up. Good. And then from one side, we're going to give a little nudge up. Let one side drop down, other side comes up for a little gentle stretch. You might turn your eyes up towards the ceiling. And then find center, go the other way. One mastoid goes up, the other one comes down. Little micro turn or movement. Good. And then back to center, give both sides of your neck a little brush up the back. And as you get to your hairline, the nape of your neck, little gentle nod of your chin down, like you're yawning that base of the skull place open. Good. And then let it go. Have a moment to feel, kind of zoom out and feel, do I feel a little better? Maybe a little softer, a little taller, shoulders dropped a tiny bit. If there's really no change, it's okay, be honest. Let's give each arm a little brush. Using touch really to just bring our attention to this part of our body, as well as wake up those tissues where, especially if we feel tension, there can be either a fixation on the discomfort or a lack of attention. Like, I don't want to feel that part of me. Okay. So while we're brushing, see if you can imagine your arms getting longer You can give them a little rhythmic drop or shake if that feels good. And then shrug your shoulders up intentionally towards your ears. Ask those muscles to contract and lift your shoulders. Nice full calm breath in. Unclench your booty if you notice that that's happening, and then let your shoulders drop back down. Only one more time. Shoulders all the way up. Hold them up there, giving those muscles a chance to fully contract. Full breath in, feel your ribs expand. And then let them drop. Good, nice. We're gonna take the arms one at a time behind your back. So turn the arm in, slide across your lower back. You might take hold of your arm if that feels good, but you don't have to. And then trust your intuition. Do I want to take a little bow, chin to chest? Do I want to take the ear away? Maybe you turn or nod yes while you're there. So while we are doing, quote unquote, a stretch, I want you to be gently in motion so it never gets too intense. Just gently touching into that place and let that mastoid, that side of your neck melt. Could I imagine it melting, oozing, softening? With your exhale, chin comes down. Take a little bend in your knees. And then release your arms, sweep up, gaze up. And let the arms drop. Good, other arm out to the side, wah, wah. Turn it in, ta-da, slide behind. If you notice that your posture comes forward, you arch your back to bring your arm behind you and let your body settle into center. So softening those low back muscles. Take that same gentle inquiry with your neck on the second side. So moving, slow motion, tiny micro movements to override tension. Letting your tongue and jaw release. Even if you find a spot that's like, oh, right there, breath is moving. Maybe go in and out of the intensity with those small movements. And then when you feel your exhale, let your chin connect down into your heart space. Feel the floor, bend your legs, release the arm and press the floor away, big yawning stretch. And then let it open out wide. Good. Really simple movement. We're going to take up space, get big. And then when you're ready, reach to one side, see to one side, and pull yourself in. Good. Press the floor away, open up, get big. Oh, and then look, see, reach, pull yourself into the other side. See where you're going as you open back out. Just each side one more time, pulling in. And then radiate open. And however much your spine wants to curl and extend is up to you. Good. Releasing the hands into a nice easy shoulder roll. Dropping down into our feet. We're going to take a small circling of the hips. So we had neck shoulder request. Yay. I love my neck and shoulders. Maybe they feel better. We also had a hips request. So we'll do just a little circling here in weight bearing. And then our restorative sequence will get more into some pelvic awareness, hip awareness. Okay. So nice and easy. Your knees can be really bent. If there's ever any place where you're like, oh, I just want to, like a cat waking up, just be there for a minute. That's okay. Good. Nice. Take a moment to trace down your legs. Again, your knees can be quite bent. Your feet can go as wide as you would like. And use that same principle that we're not going into a deep, intense, static stretch. We're moving, little gentle press side to side, or letting your spine be like seaweed undulating in the water. Your hands can support against the floor or elbows against your knees. And then give yourself space to decide how you want to come to the floor. Maybe it's simple and you sit down on one hip. Maybe you come through that wide leg forward bend into a shape like down dog. Maybe you lower down through kneeling to child's pose. And staying with motion, little movements, side to side or circling, or a little rolling of your forehead across the mat if you're in child's pose. Moving with the energy or sensation that you feel. Moving with the breath. And then over the next 2 or 3 breaths, finding your way into a smaller movement. Could I go 50% smaller with what I'm doing? And then again, 50% smaller. Until you eventually maybe surprise yourself that like, oh, I'm still now. I moved so small and subtle that now I'm resting for a moment. Dynamic stillness. Offering yourself gratitude thus far for engaging, for participating, for tracking what you notice. And then over the next few breaths, we're going to come to seated. You're welcome to sit however you're most comfortable. And we'll start to work our way into the restoratives. So our first one is going to be a side lying shape. And we're going to do kind of like a lounging lizard side lying variation. So some of you are familiar with when we do more of a side bend with the bolster under the rib cage. This is going to be a little more neutral, a little bit less action into the diaphragm and ribs and thoracic spine. So what you'll need is something to support your head that has a little bit of width to it, so that later on, after we have been here a little while, we're going to do a little bit of rolling into supine twist. So you want something that's going to be wide enough that your head can roll along that surface. If you have a bolster, you're going to park the bolster lengthwise. That's going to be for your top knee and shin. If you do feel any discomfort in your bottom shoulder or your bottom hip, you can give yourself a little support along your waist. You're going to fill that natural curve of your waist so that way your bottom shoulder and hip don't take as much pressure. If you have a bath towel is great. Like a real oblong, squishy roll that fits the shape of your waist. A bath towel can be even a little nicer than a blanket sometimes. So it gives a little more squish, okay? So you're making a space for your shoulder. support for your head. And then I actually really like having something to tuck in my bottom leg. So I'm going to come to my right side. My bottom right leg is going to tuck in. And then my top leg is going to come across the bolster. Okay. And depending on your geometry, your body frame, you might hug or roll a bath towel for your top arm, support under your top elbow. You could rest your arm alongside your body as well. So take some time to get situated. And really trust your discernment. If you get like an immediate, oh yeah, an immediate sigh of relief, likely you're good. If it's not quite right yet, it's worth futzing now because we're going to spend a good amount of time here. Okay. So your top leg is at roughly 90 degrees, can be a little less than 90 or higher than 90, depending on what feels good. And again, trusting your discernment, it's worth flexing. It's almost like if you were offering this to your child or your grandmother or your best friend, like you would futz for them, right? And sometimes for ourselves, we're like, oh no, I mean, it's good enough, it's fine. Please, for the love of comfort, give yourself permission to really make it comfortable. If you're not sure, you can send me a message. If you're there, let your attention then start to drop in. Start to invite yourself to guide your senses inward, quieting your sense of the outside world in favor of more keen attention on your breathing. In favor of acknowledging where and how your body is supported. And from those places of support, see if you can allow yourself to start to spread into those places of contact. Could I give my weight a little more into the bolster or the floor? Deeply trusting that the earth can hold you. I trust the ground to receive me. And we're not looking for perfection. It's okay if you don't completely let go right away. Just noticing if I trust that I'm supported, if I trust that I'm okay in this moment, what would softening feel like? And there might be a physical softening where we start to yield and connect or merge into the ground with our body. There might be a slowness or a different rhythm to our breathing. And there might be a stilling or quieting of our mind. Trusting that for right now, there's nowhere else we need to be. You might be taking smooth, conscious breaths. Or in our membership classes, sometimes we've been exploring how it feels to not control the breath, to not override what the breath does on its own. So if there's little shudders or yawns or sighs, pauses, can we trust that our breath knows what to do? That we can let go and be breathed, resting. And guiding slowly, gliding your attention down through your body to your belly. If there was any holding or effort, see if you can let that soften. You might feel your belly's shape change, and can you allow that? Noticing perhaps if we allow the breath the freedom to venture down deeper, that we might feel the wave of the breath come through the lower spine, the side of our waist, even into the pelvic bowl. There might be a gentle rocking of our pelvis or our sacrum with the depth of the wave of inhale and exhale. So not consciously generating movement through effort, but seeing or feeling, oh, if I just let myself breathe and rest, the breath moves me. And how amazing that is for our lymph, our blood, our digestive tract, our spinal muscles, our pelvic floor. That there can be such rich benefit to lounging. So enjoy lingering, lounging for a few more breaths. If you'd like a little more awareness of your pelvis or pelvic floor, you might take your top hand to your sit bone and just give a little gentle pressure or a little circular massage around the top sit bone. Totally optional. There's lots of things that attach, tissues, muscles, ligaments that attach to the sit bone, and the pelvic bowl, pelvic diaphragm, connects to the inside surface of the sit bone. So gently palpating as if to bring awareness and appreciation to your base of support, to your roots. That right now, those muscles don't have to hold you up. They get to receive and rest. Good. From your sit bone, if you're taking your hand there, start to walk your hand forward to the back of your knee. So sliding along your thigh, like you're going to draw your knee towards your belly a little bit more. So a little deeper hip crease, knee comes towards your belly. You can go as far into that as you would like. And then once you're situated with your knee, let that be, let it rest into the bolster. Your hand, top hand, can come to your chest or your heart. And we're going to gently roll our heart open, facing the sky or ceiling, and then return to sidewine. Back and forth incrementally, just as far as the body says an absolute yes, and then return to your side. So there's no rush, there's no agenda. Working with ourselves moment to moment in a way that feels kind, juicy, smooth. And as you let the heart roll back, feel how it can connect along the floor. You start to feel your back ribs and the back of your skull supported into whatever amount of that spiral feels good. So it's up to you if you stay in motion back and forth, or as you start to roll the heart open, you might feel the left shoulder blade arrive into the blanket or the floor. If it doesn't, you are a 100% valid human being. So enjoying a moment to release the chest, the front of the shoulder, maybe little circles of the elbow or your head rolling side to side. Just a nice yawning stretch like a cat waking up from a nap, or trusting your instincts there. Good. When you feel your next exhale, bring the left hand back to your heart, roll back to your right side. Coming back to resting. So remembering what it feels like to yield, to give in to gravity for a moment. You might feel a yawn or sigh, or horse lips on the exhale. And then allow yourself to gradually find your way to seated. Take your sweet time, there's no rush. Coming upright for a moment. Sit however you'd like. You can have legs out, cross-legged, sit on a bolster. Settling your attention to feel or contrast the two sides of you. You probably feel a little different on one side. Maybe noticing how your sit bones meet the ground. Maybe the knee up side, left side, maybe feels wider, more grounded, more relaxed. Finding words for what you feel, just internally, silently. And then when we go to side two, you do not have to face the camera or face me. So feel free to just leave your props and roll over. You don't have to reconfigure your whole setup. And keep in mind that you might set up a little differently on side two, okay? I didn't mention scoliosis for this posture since we're more neutral through the spine, but if you know something feels different, give yourself extra support, right? So fill the spaces that aren't contacting the floor. Fill that negative space with a towel or blanket roll as needed. And we'll find side two, okay? So giving yourself time to futz and get your props just right. Little Goldilocks moment. And once you feel like your props are situated, you have a blanket for warmth, any adjustments have been made, then invite yourself to settle in. One of you used the phrase nestle in when you signed up for tonight. So that word, if it works, nestle in, snuggle in, settle. Start to invite yourself to enjoy how you're being supported. And again, noticing over the first few moments that we can start to allow a spreading, a broadening, a softening. We might feel ourselves give in a little more, or parts of the body becoming heavier, trusting the earth a little bit more. This might be a more passive practice of allowing, unfolding, releasing. Or there might be a little engagement with your attention through imagery. So what if that part of me, where maybe you feel some holding or guarding or tension, what if that part of me could soften like butter on the counter in the sun on a summer day? What would it feel like if I could give in just 5% or 2%, more trusting, more comfortable? Knowing that you're supported and that we're in this practice together collectively. And that there's nothing else drawing our attention. There's nowhere else we need to be, and there's no problem to be fixed or solved. That we get to be with ourselves, be with what is in this moment. Again, maybe there's a consciousness to your breath, or you've been taking deep breaths on purpose. You might want to continue that for whatever reason. Or you might be intrigued with this idea of being breathed, to not override the breath's natural impulse, to simply be a witness to what the breath does moment to moment. If it feels useful, you can guide your attention downward, inward, eventually arriving deep in your belly. Inviting your belly to release or let go a little bit more, which is different, by the way, than pushing it out. So just allowing. Could there be more space? Could there be more softness? Could I welcome in that relaxation all the way down through my low back, my belly, my digestive tract, letting the wave of the breath flow all the way down through the pelvic bowl and wash back out again on the exhale. Maybe noticing subtle sensations in your pelvis, or maybe a rocking of your top hip back and forth as you breathe. It'll be small and subtle, but perhaps marveling at the fact that your body knows how to do this. If we trust and rest, there's a whole orchestra of micro movements with the breath flowing in and out. You might rest and stay as you are. You might take your top hand to the top sit bone. Give yourself a little gentle touch or pressure or circular massage. Not judging, simply noticing if one hip feels different than the other. Again, no problem to be solved or fixed, just paying attention, kind, loving attention. And if you're interested in that pelvic awareness, knowing that the whole network of support from our pelvic floor connects to the inner contour, the inside surface of the sit bone, all along that ridge of bone to the pubic bone. Maybe one more deep breath, sending that appreciation to your base of support, your roots, your pelvic bowl. Sweeping from sit bone towards your knee. Maybe adjusting the top leg to bring it in a little closer if your hip says yes. And then finding heart awareness, bringing your hand to your sternum or your chest. We'll take our gentle roll back and forth. From your side, turning the heart and letting your head respond, rolling back into the bolster, the floor, the blanket as you shine the heart upwards. And then retreat, go back the way you came. Slowly going in and out. Not seeking intensity of a stretch sensation so much, but finding that flow of how your body is in agreement with the opening and the closing. So your head, your heart, your ribs are moving into a little spiral and then back to sideline. You might stay in motion or over the next one or two openings, if you find a place to stay, you're welcome to be there for a breath or so. Maybe noticing if the top shoulder blade has started to arrive into the ground. Again, if not, totally okay. One last big inhale to fill those upper lobes of the lungs, and then use your exhale to curl back in to yourself. Return to your side. As you come back to your side, give in to the earth again. Let yourself yield into the support of the ground. Give yourself a little longer to nestle in or linger there. And then when you feel content, deciding and then let your body follow that it's time to come up. It's time to have a moment upright. You can face wherever you land is perfect. You don't have to turn to face me. And we take this time in between postures in this more neutral, familiar, upright place to observe. To get curious about, like, how am I changing through this practice? What am I noticing? Maybe it's the value of your attention. Maybe there's a tangible change in your body. Take as long as you need. And then over the next little while, we'll set up for our next posture, which will be face up supine on our back. Good. Yeah. 2 postures in and like 20-25 minutes later. Good work, everyone. Good. So this next one is supported bridge. If you're familiar, go ahead beyond what I'm showing and just set yourself up. For me, I'm going to use a bolster, but you might use a folded blanket instead of a bolster, especially if that if your bolster is on the larger side and you are on the smaller side, or if this is a new posture for you and having your pelvis higher than your heart is unfamiliar. If it's just new territory for you, you don't have to go as high. So something smaller, if that's for you. I'll show both actually. So I'm gonna have a sit kind of on the edge of my prop, and then I'm gonna roll my way onto my back. You could just be on your back and use an active bridge to slide your prop in and out. That's okay as well. Okay, so whether you want to go sidelining and roll, up to you. And whatever you're using to elevate your pelvis, you want it to be firmly supporting both buttocks, the width of your sacrum and pelvic bones all the way across, and even up into your lower back a little bit. So if your prop is too low down towards the sacrum, it can tend to put us into a pelvic tilt, a posterior pelvic tilt, and then our low back is not supported. So you want to err on the side of bringing it a little higher. So there's a continuity of your low back streaming into your pelvis. Nice and clear, gradual curves of lines, nothing abrupt or unsupported. Feel free to add a layer of blanket for warmth. And for this first little while, we're going to let our feet be grounded. So knees bent, soles of the feet planted. Take a little time to get situated. And again, you might take some deep conscious breaths or settle into that awareness practice of like, I trust my body to do what it needs to do. It might even feel like your breath is a little shallower or quieter, almost like just before you fall asleep. And again, if having your pelvis elevated, if it creates throat tension or eye pressure or just too much of a rush up, into your head, go lower. Take your pelvis a little less high, so it's a little more neutralizing, less of an inversion. Finding your way to any last adjustments or warmth or flexing. And then trust that you can start to receive and settle in. If it feels like your knees don't want to stay parallel, you could use your blanket to gently tuck yourself in, almost to gently hold or contain the knees in parallel. You could also prop your knees together if that feels all right across your low back. Good. So a tiny bit of logic or theory for us that when we're upside down, it can be helpful sometimes to be upside down a tiny bit in terms of resetting our breathing. So it's a different context, a different orientation for our body than where we spend the bulk of our waking hours. Pelvis above the heart a little bit. So it's a little strengthening for the breath in. The diaphragm works a little harder to draw the breath down towards the pelvis. But then we get the gift of gravity assisting us on the exhale. All the contents of the abdominal viscera and fluids help us let go of the breath going out. So whether you feel that happening in your body or not doesn't really matter. Just know and trust that there's some purpose to this position. That it can be a recalibration for our heart, our blood pressure, our breathing, our nervous system. If it feels useful to focus your attention in your body, start to notice the base of your skull, the nape of your neck. In our warm-up, we did a little self-touch there, asking those small but mighty suboccipital muscles at the base of the skull to let go. Could I allow the whole weight of my head to be supported by the ground? Maybe that feels like there's more space between and behind your eyes. Maybe you feel your jaw have a little slack or your tongue and neck soften. Maybe your head gets a little heavier. Like we did with our shoulder shrug, if it feels like your tongue, your jaw is reluctant or not yet familiar with how to release, you might move a little bit, letting your tongue slide across your teeth and press into the inside of your left cheek. So a tongue all the way to the left, maybe reaching through the tip of your tongue. And then tongue all the way to the right, reaching to touch the inside of your right cheek. And then coming back to center to see, oh, after engaging, maybe there's more awareness, maybe there's more willingness to drop in, to settle, to release. Full conscious breath in through your nose. Feel the ribs expand, belly expand, pelvis receives. And then let the breath go out, out, out. Good. Guiding attention all the way down to your pelvis. Feel how your sacrum, the back of your pelvis, meets the bolster. And just like the invitation to unfurl or release the tongue and jaw, the tip of your tailbone, if you can imagine you had a long, silky, heavy tail, could I roll out my metaphorical tail and let it rest in gravity? Inviting that release down through your roots, your pelvis. Trusting that you can rest into your bones, rest into the earth. And deciding based on your own instincts and awareness, you want to stay how you are, please do. If you feel like you're done with the inversion, you can gradually draw the prop out from under and bring your hips back to the ground. If you want to explore a little tiny movement, go ahead and bring one knee into your hands. Hug one knee towards your belly. Little gentle release through the back of that hip. Give yourself support to hug the leg in. Could use a strap as well as your hands. Maybe you circle the toes and ankle. Maybe you take the grounded foot away from you, sending that foot out along the floor, straightening that knee however much your body says, absolutely, yes, thank you. Good. And the foot that's out along the floor, maybe flex and point as well. And then draw the floor foot back in, bend that knee, plant that foot. And then we'll change sides. You can do this again with the pelvis elevated or pelvis on the floor. So when you're ready, side two. Little hug of that knee. Feel your hip crease melting as your thigh comes close to your belly. Maybe move the foot and ankle. And if your body is a yes, or at least a curiosity is there, track the other leg out long. Send that foot sliding along the floor away from you. And again, it only goes as far as your body says, yeah, that feels good. Maybe flexing and pointing that foot as well. Good. With your next exhale, slide the floor foot back in, bend that knee. Planting both feet so that we can come out of the inversion. So we're going to do a tiny dynamic bridge, hips up just enough that you can pull the blanket or bolster out from under, and then lower down into the floor. And trust wherever you want to go from here. Maybe you hug both knees in. Maybe you take a windshield wiper, knees side to side with your feet grounded. Maybe there's happy baby pose or figure four. So invite yourself into whatever your impulse is, what your instinct says. Yeah, I think this is where I'll go. And trust that it's the right choice. Low stakes. There's no wrong answer. Okay. Good. So over the next little while, we're going to set up for Shavasana. We're coming out of the small inversion of the pelvis elevated. And now we're going to have our heart, belly, hips all on the floor, neutralizing the inversion. You might have a little something for your head and neck. Definitely recycle, reuse your bolster or blanket roll for underneath your knees. And I would definitely suggest that, especially if you're using a bolster underneath your knees, that you add a rolled blanket for behind your Achilles tendon. So where your feet wouldn't normally make much contact, maybe just the very tiny bit of contact at the heel, we're going to use that blanket roll to fill the space behind your ankle, behind the Achilles tendon. You could even fill the space all together between those points as well, if you want a little pressure behind the calves, the backs of your legs, okay? If you happen to have a strap, especially if it felt like in your body at any point with the suggestion of relaxing the pelvic muscles, pelvic floor, if that felt challenging, or if you know that you tend to experience shallow breathing, glute clenching, jaw tension, etc., stress, anxiety, right? If it feels challenging to let go, I personally have been using a strap around my thighs in Shavasana lately, and it seems to really make a big difference, right? So containing, supporting, swaddling kind of our whole body so that we have something to rest into versus not having that support to rest into, okay? So you can loop it, or when it comes time, you can literally just take a little overhand knot and kind of tuck yourself in, okay? Last but not least, if you want to have a little roll of towel right up at the nape of the neck, base of the skull, sometimes that can be nice as well to have a little bit of pressure there. And you can then take your towel and kind of tuck in either way, okay? So you can tuck in around your neck space when you lay down, or right under your shoulder blades, giving yourself a little pressure there into the upper trap muscle, okay? So really go for it. We're talking like luxury model Shavasana, not just base model Shavasana. Give yourself all the bells and whistles. It's worth the futzing. Feel free to turn the lights down before you lay down if you feel like you want to make that adjustment. And make sure you'll stay plenty warm. If there's even a doubt, any doubt that you'll be cool, add a blanket, add a layer, okay? So giving yourself that impeccable care, as if I am there to tuck you in. Trusting that it's okay to make a couple adjustments or get it just right, or fix your pant legs so you're not distracted by small things like that. And then once you feel like, okay, I've got all my bells and whistles dialed in, I'm ready, then trust yourself to settle in. See if you can lovingly ask yourself to become still, to get quiet. Noticing where your body is supported and letting those places of contact be like the conduit, like the channel for you to pour the weight of your body back into the earth, to feel your pulse, your pace slow down. And you might, again, use your breath as the object of meditation, fully aware, breathing in, fully aware of breathing out, setting a pace or a rhythm for your breath consciously. Or you might let that go. Let your mind meander or settle down through the deep contours and recesses inside your body. Trusting that your breath will do what it needs to do moment to moment. Gradually inviting each part of yourself to come home. Seeing if you can acknowledge or feel your whole body, the outline, the volume of the whole you resting in this moment. The shape of your own imprint against the ground or your mat. Seeing if you can trust yourself to sink in 2% more. As if we could suspend time. Simply noticing where your attention is without making it right or wrong, just noticing. And if need be, guide your attention back to your connection to the ground, the earth, the imprint of you resting in this space. And then over the next little while, see if you can consolidate your attention, concentrate your mind's attention into your heart. Can I reside for the next little while deep behind my sternum, between my lungs, into my heart space? Simply noticing if there are thoughts or images, emotions, sensations. As you're resting your attention here within the home of your heart, the cave of your heart. Resting attention there, maybe imagining that there's a warmth, a kindness, conjuring up the feeling, the quality of loving kindness. For some people, it might feel tingly or bubbly, like happiness. For others, it might be a deep trust and respect, positive regard. Just noticing, what would it feel like if I could bring up this quality of appreciation, acceptance, loving kindness within myself as a gift to myself. Maybe there's a tear, maybe there's a small smile. Maybe you feel a sigh of relief. Maybe it feels challenging. Trusting and observing whatever your process is in this moment, with inviting in the awareness of loving kindness. And then with your next breath cycle, draw the inhale down a little deeper, 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 expanding the breath around the space of your heart, big volume breath. And then exhale, let it go in your own time, and let the meditation go. Bringing your senses back up to the surface. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin, the texture of your blanket or clothes. The sounds that you hear, both from your own breath, pulse, body, and the sounds around you, the sounds outside. When you feel ready, gently begin to move. Small, tiny micro movements. Maybe a circling, maybe a rocking side to side. Eventually that will welcome more movement, maybe bending the knees or rolling to your side. Setting the sankalpa, your intention, I am about to go upright. And then let your body follow that invitation over the next few breaths, finding your seat. Give yourself comfort. You can sit in a chair, on a bolster, lean your back against the couch, the wall, whatever you might want. And as you arrive upright, maybe a yawn or a sigh wants to come through. And see if you can let your awareness expand, zoom out, include all of you. All of you in this moment, in this time and space. How am I now? Have my sensations or posture changed? Has my level of comfort, energy, attention changed? And I welcome you to choose one thing that you feel was useful or positive So if there was one thing that you take away from this practice, what is it? And let yourself be with that part of your experience for the next 3 breaths. From that heart space, developing a little courage, a little shraddha or faith in one's self. Comes from the Yoga Sutras, the word shraddha. Faith in myself, trust, goodwill, optimism, acceptance, courage. Can I take in this pleasant moment and trust it? As we feel our next big inhale, feel the palms of your hands boom open. With an exhale, let them seal together in front of your heart space. Gentle bow head to heart. And with that, our class, our practice is complete for today. Thank you all for joining. And as we venture through the month of Feb, little Valentine's loving kindness theme going on, as well as the theme of courage for the folks that are in my 9-month program Inhabit. So heart-centered, heart-focused, courage, wholehearted, loving kindness towards ourselves through practices like this that we make time for ourselves. So thank you for being here. Hope you feel luscious. And maybe I'll see you very soon again for another class.